Good morning, everyone. We'll wait just a minute. We've got lots of folks entering from the waiting room. Thank you so much for joining us this morning for our first Project Arise RDRS informational series session featuring our friends at UCSF Multitudes. We're so glad that you're all here to learn more about the screener, and we hope that this session will provide you lots of information for you to take back to your district or site. So let's go ahead and get started. Before we do begin, we'd like to tell you a little bit about Project Arise. Project Arise is a grant-funded program through the Reading Instruction and Intervention Grant from the California Department of Education. And we provide professional learning opportunities for educators across the state of California. And really, we partner with some amazing organizations, some different county offices, and universities and nonprofit organizations throughout the state that are helping to provide these professional learning experiences. The backbone of our offerings is this free statewide self-course, I'm sorry, not nervous or anything, everyone. The special course that we offer statewide, I'm sorry, here we go. And these courses help you learn more about executive functions, literacy, science of reading, and intensive intervention. And you can see the amazing partners who created the content for those courses on the screen. So these are free to educators across the state of California, and we would love for you to check them out. In addition, we have some workshops and communities of practice that help you learn more about the important information that you can get within those courses. And they too are open across California to any educators who are interested. We also want to point you to some important tools that can help you through this screening process. You can see the adoption toolkit on the screen was created by the Curricular and Improvement Support Committee, the ELA-ELD subcommittee, and it will give you lots of tools to help you with this adoption process. In addition, you'll see the screening instrument review chart that I just dropped in the chat. You can use this to help take notes today. I also emailed it to those of you who received an email this morning. So without further ado, I'd love to turn it over to Mariah and Francesca from UCSF Multitudes.
Good morning, everyone. As Mariah shared the slide, my name is Francesca Pei. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for the Multitude Project. And I'm here today to represent our team together with Mariah, our Learning Interventionist Applies Research Manager, in representation of our team, and to tell you more about the Multitude Screener and platform. So just to give you some context, this actually was born, the Multitude was born within the UCSF Dyslexia Center. We have a unique team of educators, scientists, clinicians, LP, and our multidisciplinary team is really uniquely positioned to translate the latest neuroscience discovery into practice and to support transformational changes in literacy, outcome, education, equity, and brain health. These slides just want to give you a brief history of the Multitude research and development. Our research really began in about 2020, right where the pandemic hit us, and with funding from the state of California and the support from SCOI and the California Dyslexia Initiative. Over the past 4 years, our research effort really have expanded greatly with the goal of building more than just a product. We really strive to foster the partnership with the California educator and students with a common goal, the student success. So we actually now have a working platform that has been beta tested and pilot in early version by our educator across the state. And we, as you all know, in December, we were approved as a screening instrument for California for English and Spanish-speaking students in grade K, first and second. We Multitude, like all the other screener that you will they were approved together by the state, are a screening instrument. They are not diagnostic tool, but rather they do identify a subset of the population who may need additional support in developing the reading skill. And if anybody is wondering why we're all doing this, really the goal is to support the children in the area of need as early as possible. So early screening means early identification of possible needs, and so means early intervention. So screening, it is important. So what set Multitude apart? Multitude platform and screening, it really translated the latest finding into useful tool for educator being neuroscience based. As I explained before, was born within the UCSF Dyslexia Center, is made for every single student and also for multilanguage learner. So it's fair and accurate measurement to support the equitable reading outcome for all the students in California. It does embrace the many variation in dialect, culture, regional diversity of our state. And so we are proud to say that it's culturally affirming, and it is at no cost for public school. So every student can expect the best early literacy screening for reading challenges. This next slide is just an overview of the complete platform, and Mariah will take you into the details of what it looks like. But this is basically, the platform is comprehensive of a screening tool, of reporting for teacher administrator, intervention platform, and professional development material. Few relevant features that we want to address as we're going through thinking about the adoption of the screener for next year. This slide just highlights some of the important features. Is a digital web-based screening, so it is compatible with any device you may have at your school. It does provide instant result and reporting for teachers, so there is no need of scoring or like waiting for your result to be shown in the platform. It does integrate with Clever and ClassSync if your school have used such support, but also if you don't, it's the same. We can still roster your school. It is FERPA and COPPA compliance and does align with MTSS. So what does Multitude looks like? And this picture just show you one of our proctor administering Multitude in one-on-one school. It is one-on-one, is administered one-on-one. We actually do know how precious the structured time is, and we value it very much. We do also know that most accurate and fair way to screen a student, especially multilingual learner, kids, and in early grade, it is a one-on-one administration. So we did make the decision to keep it this way for the time being. The universal screener, it takes about 10 minutes per child, and it is administered once a year. In the fall or winter, we recommend a different moment in administration depending on grade, but it need to be after adequate instruction time and early enough to inform instructional decision-making during the year, so you can intervene on time. Screening with Multitude, again, just to stress one more time, can happen anywhere there is a Wi-Fi connection because it's web-based. The administrator and student device are digitally linked. And as with any assessment, the ideal environment is free of distraction as possible, as much as possible. However, Multitude can also be given in the classroom setting. In that case, we do recommend using headphone for the student device. Next slides just show a complete suite of all the Multitude tasks. We have about 19 in total, and they are all available in English and Spanish. On the left side of the slide, you will see the domain, category, basically all grouping the task together into reading skills. And all the tasks that are under each domain by grade are featured on the far left, right side. The universal screener is a selection of those tasks. And the way we did select this task is after years of research and analysis based on the most informative task for reading development, both in English and in Spanish. The tasks that are accurate for both English only and multilingual learner. We did include predictor of reading difficulty and dyslexia. And we, of course, took into account what is the minimal administration time with the highest reliability. And just so to inform the audience here, the sensitivity of all our tasks in English and Spanish across the board is between 80 and 90%. So the identification of risk is made with a short battery of tasks that are here exemplified on the bottom right side of the slides with the risk identification for kinder, first and second grade. I would like now to turn over to Mariah, and she will take you inside the platform and show you a little bit more about how this works and how educators can use Multitude in their school.
Thanks, Francesca. Hi, everyone. Mariah Pospischel, Learning Interventions Manager, and also a longtime teacher. I've worked a lot of years with students with dyslexia, so know how important it is to be intervening early with students who need support. So I'm excited to show you a little bit about Multitudes. We will start just with a brief video that will walk you through a little bit of what the universal screening experience is like. Let's take a look at the Multitudes Universal Screener. After selecting the class and then the student you'd like to screen, choose the appropriate language, and then it's time to pair the administrators and students' devices. Once the student presses start, the Multitudes platform will do most of the work.
Hi there! I'm Poppy. I'm excited to meet you. My friends and I want to play some games with you. Let's get started. Are you ready?
The first task will begin when the video concludes. Click play in the lower left-hand corner to play the directions. Notice the yellow text at the top of the screen, which indicates what to do if you're unsure. The platform will explain the directions and walk the child through 2 to 3 practice items. At this point, both the platform and you, the administrator, will provide corrective feedback and ensure that the student understands the task directions.
That's not quite it. This is a plane or jet. Now you'll do some by yourself.
During the assessment items, let the platform do the talking. Remain neutral and refrain from providing evaluative feedback at this point. You may give general encouragement or any prompts specifically listed in the administration manual. At the end of each task, a brief transition video will play.
Thanks for playing with us. Let's see what's next.
When all 4 universal screening tasks are complete, an outro video will play for the student. You will be able to view the student's screening results on the results page immediately, including their screening designation of on target or support needed, and their scores for each individual task. Don't forget to access instructional and professional development resources to support you in working with students as you bolster their areas of need and discover their strengths. Right, so a little sneak peek inside of our screening tool, and we'll go a little deeper kind of into each section of the platform. So the very beginning of the video, you saw a quick glance of our class dashboard, which is our landing page when we log on to Multitudes. And this is also the place where we can view students' assessment histories or initiate the universal screener or all of our wonderful additional assessments that we offer. When students do take the universal screener, they'll receive an overall screening score, either of support needed where we know that they need more support to strengthen their reading skills, and actually that more assessment is needed to probably better understand their specific strengths and needs. And roughly speaking, a support needed score would equate to risk of reading difficulty, like dyslexia. So these are students who do need our support and intervention right away to make sure that they're getting what they needed, and that hopefully we're doing preventative work to prevent those reading difficulties from developing down the road. On the other hand, students might screen as on target, meaning that they're meeting expectations compared to our statewide representative sample of children in that grade. So as I mentioned, the Universal Screener is of course available for all students in kindergarten through second grade, but we actually have, as you saw on the slide Francesca presented, a total of 19 tasks in English and Spanish. So several of those we are going to strongly recommend as follow-ups for students who screen as support needed. For those students, we feel it's important to get a little bit more information and insight to tease out their language proficiency from reading challenges, particularly for our multilingual learners. We want to make sure that we are really looking at students with reading difficulties and not just students who are still needing language proficiency support, which of course we need to continue to support them with as well. So follow-up assessments and rapid visual processing tasks are included in that, are also available for anybody. We also offer scores on each individual task a student takes, whether that's a task on the Universal Screener or a follow-up or just additional assessments you've chosen to give. In this case, we give a little more gradation. You still see the support needed zone from the 0 to the 20th percentile. In the middle, we have actually kind of a middle area of some support needed. We wanted to highlight students whose scores were between the 20th and 60th percentile as students that you might want to keep an eye on in that particular area, and perhaps provide them some additional support as needed. And then, of course, on target above the 60th percentile, we are performing as expected, and all is going well. All right, so you've seen a couple of glimpses of our class results page, but we'll go a little deeper here into what's available. So results are calculated automatically and immediately by the Multitudes platform. At times, you as the administrator working one-on-one with the student will be scoring correct or incorrect, or clicking on perhaps items that a student missed during the assessment. But other than that, the platform is taking care of all of the scoring. So no tabulation or lookup tables or any of that good stuff. The platform will do the work for you there. And then results will be available immediately here on this dashboard, where you can actually view your whole class, or the whole class that you're working with for screening. And you can see how many students have completed the Universal Screener, those first 4 tasks. And if they have completed it, you'll see their designation of either support needed or on target. Incomplete means a student has started, but perhaps not completed the screener. Maybe they did 3 of the 4 tasks and there was a fire drill, or you needed to stop for some reason, and they need to actually complete that. And not tested, of course, are the students who haven't been tested yet. So kind of a nice at a glance of screening progress. And then over here in this section, of course, we have our results. So the little dot is that overall Universal Screener score, and you can actually sort based on that score to easily see which students in the class need support versus those who are on target. And then here we have our scores on each individual Universal Screening task. So we're hoping that this kind of grid view will support teachers in seeing at a glance what areas of support their students require, and maybe even help give a start for some instructional groupings here. As you can see, which students might need some extra support in vocabulary or language skills versus, which students really need that reading support in their phonological awareness or alphabetic knowledge. If we click on any one of these wonderful students' names, then we will see their individual results page. So again, Universal Screener score right there at the top. And then below, organized by domain, which you can see here in green, we'd have each task that the student has taken. Right here, this individual results example would be what it would look like if a student had only taken the universal screener. There's one task in each of the domains. If you were to give follow-up assessments for this student who scored as support needed, or maybe were just interested in learning about a particular area, those scores would be reported right here on this same score sheet, organized under the appropriate domain. And then this is exportable, printable, so that you can share with parents and caregivers, as well as print for students' cumulative files, share with other educators. And we do also have a couple of documents to help with that sharing with parents and caregivers that are translated into the top 10 languages, actually top 11 languages in California. We have an explainer called What is Multitudes? You're able to send home beforehand that will explain a bit about what universal screening is. I'm imagining a lot of parents and caregivers like we are might be new to this. So that's designed or potentially to be sent home beforehand. And then we have a results page explainer that will walk a parent through what to expect on the results page so that they can use it alongside their student score report. And then we'll also give some suggestions of small things that parents and caregivers can do within their daily routine to support their students, their child's literacy growth. So speaking of supporting children's literacy growth, we are also offer our wonderful resources page. So 3 tabs on the resources page, we have our Getting Started Training tab. That contains a huge wealth of asynchronous training materials for multitudes. So while we'll talk a little bit more about our training offerings in a minute, really you could log on to the platform, access these asynchronous resources, and be good to go just based on this. We have our complete administration manual, demonstration videos of every single task, information about screening multilingual learners, those parent guides, and much more. So lots of good stuff to get you started there. Then we also have our professional learning tab where you're able to access professional development materials related to screening and literacy. That will continue to grow. So lots of good stuff there for your learning. And then lastly, instructional resources, which you can see a snippet of on your screen. These are actually lessons and materials and tools for you as educators to use with students. So not meant to replace a complete curriculum, but if you're looking for a supplement for a particular phonological awareness activity or an oral language activity to use with your students, since they screened as support needed in that domain, then we have some things here to get you started, to give you some good ideas about how to follow up with your students. All right, so it was extremely important to us at Multitudes. As Francesca said, we are a state-funded project. So our mandate was to create a screener that worked for all students in California. Therefore, it was very important for us to represent all California students in our research. So how did we do that? Well, we started by making sure that every demographic group in California was represented in our research in order to minimize bias in our tool. We wanted to make sure, again, that this tool works for everyone, not just some of us. You might notice that our sample of Hispanic and Latino students is quite large, since we were also validating our Spanish language screener. Again, Multitudes is offered in English and Spanish. So we wanted to make sure, of course, to have an adequate sample of Spanish-speaking students to ensure that our Spanish language screener was appropriate for all of the different students and all of the different Spanish speakers in our state. So while Multitudes is certainly appropriate and very effective for everyone, including monolingual English speakers, multilingual learners are a significant proportion of our state. So 40% of our public school students speak a language other than English at home. And this is 18, actually closer to 19 by now, of students who identify as English learners. So, we're getting close to 1 in 5 students in there who are English learners. So super important that we have a screening tool that doesn't over-identify these students, doesn't inappropriately identify them as having a reading difficulty if they're just still developing English language proficiency. But here with Multitudes, what we would do is be able to screen these multilingual learners in English and Spanish. Yes, it's an additional investment of time, but our team feels strongly, based on our years of research that we've conducted, that this is really the only way to fairly assess these multilingual learners, particularly at those early grades, especially in kindergarten, first grade, when they haven't had a ton of academic experience and exposure yet, and haven't probably had a lot of exposure to English, perhaps, or even Spanish in an academic setting, depending on where they're going to school. So we would require someone to speak that language to assess that student. But if we are able to get that assessment data in both English and Spanish, we'll really get a clear picture of our multilingual learners' reading challenges potentially and language needs. As Francesca mentioned too, we wanted to go above just making a screener that works for everybody. We wanted it to feel both culturally and linguistically affirming. We wanted students to see themselves represented, to see the diversity of their state represented in their screener, and walk away feeling like that was something that was for them. So again, our demographic sample has come from all over the state. You can see here on the map all the different counties and districts who have engaged in our research over the last 5 years. Our team members are incredible. We have an incredible research team of local native speakers who not only embody our students' diversity, but are therefore able to appreciate it and really connect with them. So we feel good about the folks who are doing the research to collect the data that created Multitudes. And all of that great research allowed us to develop these measures in parallel. So Spanish and English measures were developed simultaneously, but separately. Neither was a translation of the other. Our measure development team really thought carefully about the types of items that were selected, about being inclusive, about the many names that certain things can be called in English or Spanish, to make sure that we're not biasing, again, one group over another, and that every student is getting an accurate screening score at the end of the day. So one more note on screening multilingual students. We offer our tool in Spanish and English, but of course we know that there are many, many, many other languages spoken in California. So while first wanted to note that Multitudes is appropriate for Spanish speakers or kiddos learning Spanish, whether they are in an English only setting, a dual language program, or a Spanish immersion program. We've done research in all of those settings, so Multitudes will work for them. And we do offer guidance for selecting those appropriate languages in our administration manual. However, as I mentioned, lots of other languages spoken in California. So we do actually have 2 tasks, our narrative story production task and our semantic mapping tasks, which you can see snippets of here on this slide. Those are available with directions in 4 other languages, in Arabic, Mandarin, Tagalog, and Vietnamese currently. So a test administrator who speaks any of those languages could actually give either of these measures to a child in that language. Now, we wouldn't unfortunately end up with a risk of reading difficulties. It's not our complete universal screener. However, giving these 2 tasks could provide some instructionally useful information about a child's language use or language acquisition that might be useful to teachers. So just because we are not yet, don't yet have the full Multitude screener in other languages doesn't mean we're not thinking about those other languages and providing something for you to use to get some information about those students as well. All right, so now that you've learned a little bit about Multitudes, we'll talk a little bit about training. So the real good news is that Multitudes is easy to administer. Like Francesca mentioned, we have had a wonderful group of educators piloting our tool this year and beta testing a very early version last year. And they have given us a lot of feedback that we've been able to incorporate into this current version of our tool. It's been absolutely invaluable. So if that includes any of you out there on this call, we thank you so, so much. It takes a lot for school districts to engage in research, and the school districts who have been a part of our community for the last 5 years have really made Multitudes what it is today. today. So this work has not been done in isolation in a research lab. It's really been done with and for the educators and students of California. So easy to use. So we recommend really a minimum of 1 to 3 hours of foundational training, and that can actually be gotten in a number of ways. We will be offering some live training webinars on kind of the first piece, the first hour of training, starting later this spring in March. Also, as I mentioned, that asynchronous training is available on our website. If you so chose, you could engage simply with the asynchronous training and be really ready to go. But we understand a lot of people like that live interaction. So we are going to offer some free sessions, as I said, this spring. And then there will be options for paid training as well, kind of at a time of your choosing, which I'll talk about in just a second. In addition, we might recommend that folks who are newer to assessment do a little bit of additional training, perhaps practicing with our practice platform, observing a more seasoned administrator, getting some feedback maybe on a first administration or practice administration. Just nice to make sure that you're really good to go with those procedures before working with a student, particularly if you're a newer teacher or someone who hasn't given assessments too often before. Oops, jumped ahead. All right, so these are some of the offerings that we have coming right up, actually tomorrow. If you're interested in learning a bit more, we are offering our Why Choose Multitudes webinars every other Wednesday for the next few weeks. Content quite similar to what you're getting today, though, quite frankly. So this is kind of your Why Choose Multitudes webinar here. Thanks to Project Arise. We are also beginning in just a couple weeks going to be offering 15-minute one-on-one sessions, or maybe one-on-two sessions with 1 or 2 members of our team, if you have questions about adoption that you need answered individually. So we'll be offering those sessions. Those are for anyone who's interested in multitudes. And then, like I said, beginning in March, we'll shift gears and start offering foundational training sessions called Getting Started with Multitudes, for folks who are interested in adopting. And we plan to offer a number of those in the spring and then come back with some more in the summer, in addition to our paid training options. So before I talk about those paid training options, here's a little one more view of our asynchronous training. All of some of the items on our asynchronous getting started training page. We actually have quite a few more if you scroll down. But like I mentioned, task demo videos, so 3 to 5 minute videos showing every single multitudes task, reviewing any prompting or queuing procedures that an administrator can engage in that task, and showing kind of the scoring scheme, how it looks, how it works on both the administrators and the child's screen. So really, after viewing those, you should be good to go to jump in and give it a try. But we also have our administration manual posted. And in the first couple of chapters, you'll find everything you need to get started, and then a nice 1-pager of task administration procedures. Like I said, the platform with Multitudes really does do the majority of the work. But there are some prompts and things to keep children engaged and moving along through the tasks, prevent them from becoming distressed or discouraged. So all of the allowable prompts and things that you can say to engage with students are clearly spelled out in our administration manual. So it's, again, pretty easy to administer. So for folks who do want to engage a little bit more deeply, we're also offering some professional development at cost. So just a quick note. So we're funded by the state to create our screening tool, which we've done. We've even created, as you can see, some professional learning and intervention materials as well for students, but we do need to charge a little bit for our professional development to recover that cost of our time and travel and things like that. So I think at a quite reasonable cost, starting at $400 for virtual training and $1,500 for a half a day of on-site training, our team can actually provide somewhat customized trainings based on your needs. So this would be just for your school or district or group that you've designated and aligned to where you are in Multitude's adoption and in terms of your needs. We have kind of a foundational screening with Multitude series, so that'll be cover all of everything you need to be able to navigate the Multitudes platform, to be able to deliver the universal screener and the follow-up assessments. You will be ready to go. Our next series will be on responding to results. So what happens after screening? How do we make the best use of our screening data? How do we connect our screening results to instructional next steps? What considerations might we need to be thinking about in order to meet our students' needs? We're here to support you with that piece as well. Of course, so important. And then we are developing a series specifically on supporting multilingual learners. So screening practices and literacy support practices for those children specifically. Any of these series are available virtually or on site at your location, depending on what works best for you, just pending our team's availability. Although first come, first serve. And then train the trainer versions of any of these series are available too. If you'd like to have a small group of leaders at your school or district trained, for example, on how to screen with Multitudes, we can absolutely do that with, and then teach you how to train the rest of your staff. All right, and then I think at this point, I will turn it back over to Francesca to talk a little bit about what adopting Multitudes looks like. And then, so it looks like we'll have plenty of time for some questions as well at the end.
Thank you, Mariah. I hope that this was including a lot of the questions that you may have, and if not, we're happy to answer right after this presentation. This is just a roadmap for adoption. There is already in our website, and I hope for the one that didn't have a chance yet, they will after this webinar, to go in on our website and register your interest. If you go in the first page, there is Start with Multitude. If you click that button, will lead you to many opportunity and possibility. One is signing up for the webinar, inviting us for event and presentation or your school or district, and also will give us the possibility to enter your contact into our lead contact, so our customer and school success team can contact you and understand exactly what your school or district need. We do already have available for many of you, if you enter into that form or if you contact us, informational material. We do have a presentation that we can share with you if you do need to introduce Multitude to your board or your school that you can use. We do have one-pagers that you can distribute around, and as well, we have recorded Multitude demo that we're happy to share with you. That basically is an expanded version of the video you saw earlier in during Maria's presentation, and just guide you really step by step into a live recorded demo through the platform. Once you decided that Multitude is what you want to use in school next year, next step will be one of our customer and support success lead contact you to sign the letter of agreement and understanding exactly what your school need in terms of also data security and IT needs. The next step would that be if you want to add to the training that is already available, and as Mariah expressed earlier, we believe is good enough for getting you started and use the platform. We do have additional training that she explained in details in one of the last slides that you're welcome to sign up for. And then the next step for that would really be like rostering and starting to use the screener wherever you want. We are happy to connect with your IT support team. Rostering is actually depending on what you use. If you go through Clever or ClassLink, it's really a matter of minute. Again, as I say before, and we are developing the SSO. If I said it before, if your school doesn't use either one, we can still roster your classroom and your school in a very simple way within a day. The key date here that I want to highlight are February 3rd is our formal registration begin to actually sign the letter of agreement and really register to use Multitude. And on March 3rd, the whole series of training available to you will be ready for sign up, both the one that are included with the platform and the one that if you want more specific in depth for your own school or district. If this is the last slides, please scan the code to get into our Multitude website. You will find a lot of information about the platform, about the research, about all the available opportunity. We really want to thank you all for being part of our community. I do not see who's in the call, but I'm pretty sure some of you did help us to bring this to life. So I want to thank everybody here for participating, for being part already of our community, or for like maybe in the future be part of Multitude. We hope that this will be an easy tool for you to use in school. We do have a lot that is upcoming that we are going to develop in the course of the next few years, like additional languages. Mandarin is already underway. We are, for the people that have been asking, working on the possibility to use speech recognition for older grade. But in order to do that, we still need to do some due diligence and making sure that they still remain accurate and valid. So there is some research that needs to be done. I want to thank you all again. I want to thank Michelle and Julie for the opportunity. And if you have any question, here we are.
Thank you so much, Francesca and Mariah. We have a ton of questions in the chat, so I'm going to throw you an easy one first. Can we share these slides after the presentation?
Absolutely, yes. Happy to
Excellent.
share.
So for all of you who've asked, we will send a follow-up with the slides and of course the recording of today's session.
And I believe we can also list the other resources that you guys spoke of, your demos. So links all in one space to get you right where you need to go to get further answers. And I'm going to build off what Michelle said. We have almost 92 questions. There is no way that we can respond to every single one of those questions. So what we are going to do is answer as many as we can that we saw as patterns. And then if we have some outliers, what we will do is we will present them to Francesca and Mariah and see if they'd be available to point us in the right direction for answers, give us some of those answers, maybe in an FAQ kind of format.
Yeah, and Julie and Michelle, I just want to add that after our first webinar that took place a couple of weeks ago, we did collect all the questions and we now have a frequent question and answer tip sheet that we're happy also to share with this audience if needed. I'm pretty sure many questions will be overlapping with those, but if not, we will add to that.
Excellent. What we will do is we will link that in our one-pager follow-up that will include everything else. Excellent. Can you speak a little bit more clearly around administration? There were a lot of questions around administration, like who can administer, paras, teachers, who, and then also setting, remote, virtual, one-on-one. What are the requirements around administration?
Mariah, do you
Sure.
want to answer the
Yeah,
question?
happy to jump in. So really anybody can administer multitudes. It's really up to the school site to determine who feels appropriate for your community. You do need to speak the language at a fluent or near fluent capacity that you're screening in. So for some school settings, maybe we have plenty of Spanish speakers to administer the Spanish screener, some might not. So the real requirement is someone who speaks that language fluently. So that could absolutely be a teacher, a para, an interventionist, even volunteers. I know some communities will have to get creative and engage volunteers from outside of school staff or something like that. So again, Multitudes is easy to use. So we would recommend probably a bit more intensive training for folks who had never been around students and never given a screener or an assessment before. That 1 to 3 hours is probably thinking more about school staff. Francesca, did you want to jump in and add to that?
I wanted to just say exactly what you say, that the 1 to 3 hour is meant to be for teacher and school staff that already know how to administer, like how to interface with students. And but yes, we can absolutely train anyone to do so, like we actually did this year.
Yeah. Yeah, our research staff are for the most part not educators. So they were trained actually by our team originally to work with students. And let's see, you also mentioned, Julie, so the assessment currently is not designed to be given remotely. I know some folks are in remote settings and looking for a tool. We would hope to be able to offer that in the future. That has come up, but currently it is designed to be given in person, one-to-one with an administrator and a student. It can be given in any setting. We've certainly had teachers give it kind of in the back corner of the classroom while a lesson's going on or stations are going on. We do recommend throwing headphones on in that case, just to limit distractions so the student can really hear what's going on with the screener. But yeah, anywhere you have available and you have 2 devices and a Wi-Fi connection is fair game for multitudes. I think I covered all those, but you can let me know if not. Okay.
Another really common question that came up was, can they use multitudes more than once a year, like for instance, for progress monitoring?
I can answer that question, Mariah, if you want.
Great.
So the screening tool is meant to be used once a year. And I think I mentioned at the beginning, but too quickly, is that we are recommending specific time of the year to administer the screener based on grade level, and because the student need to add a little bit of instructional time before administering a screener at the beginning of the year. So it is between the fall and the winter, depending on grade level. The screening is not progress monitoring tool. It's meant to address the needs of the students, so the teacher early enough in the year that the teacher can actually intervene. But again, after prescripted instructional time. We are working on progress monitoring as we speak this year, so we hope that we can offer that in the future. I just want to make sure that we stress the fact that progress monitoring the screening cannot be used as progress monitoring. Those are very different things. I know sometimes there is confusion. Measures that are developed for screening, and most of the time they're not able to measure changes with instructional time across the same year, right? So, and the reason why I'm saying that is because sometimes we think that we can use the same thing. We actually need to develop something completely different that is very close to that, but that is sensitive to minor changes in learning and improvement. So just want to say that.
Right, thank you. There were some questions around what kind of guidance is available on how to use the results to inform instruction for teachers and what level of results can they look at. And then also additionally is, can you use, or is there guidance around how do you determine if the results are individual intervention issues or more of a programmatic school level concern?
Oh, that's such a good question. I love it. I'll take this one, Francesca.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, first I'll speak a little bit more about connecting results to instruction. So at this point, and by the way, this is an area that we very much hope to continue developing, and I'm very invested in this as an educator on our team. But currently, all of those results will be organized by domain. So your best bet will be to look at a domain in which a student appears to be struggling, let's say phonological awareness. All of our intervention materials are also filterable and organized by domain. So then you can say, hey, this student needs support in phonological awareness. I'm going to head right over here and find some phonological awareness activities that will support this student. So you'll know right there on that intervention platform, those are all research-based. They've all been vetted by our team that include experts in particular, areas of literacy and multilingual learning, et cetera. So rather than just scouring the internet, if you need something extra, you know that this is a trusted place to go. So by connecting domain of assessment need to domain of instruction, that's kind of the most direct link you'll be able to get. You can look at those domain level scores, individual task scores, and make those connections right there on our instructional resources page. We've designed those to align so that it's easy for you to pop over there and get more. Again, we'd love to build that out into more robust guidance in the future. And then let's see, Julie, remind me of the second part of the question.
The second part of the question was being able to look at like school level data to determine if it's a programmatic concern.
That's right. Yes, I loved that question too. So that's where we hope actually the class results grid will help you. If you have a significant percentage of your students, really more than 20% or so, who are scoring as support needed in an area, it might be worth really thinking about bigger picture. Certainly if we're getting up into half or more of our students have a need in an area, that might be a programmatic issue, right? So there are certain things we're hoping that will be adjusted right in tier 1 instruction after screening. One, that you'll really take a look at your program and whether it's meeting the needs that your students are presenting on the screener. And two, that you'll take a look at those opportunities for small group or intensified instruction, perhaps right there within tier 1 first. So we know that we always want to intervene and give students a chance at best first instruction, right? So I think it will probably take the screening and the intervening to then see, hey, are students making progress with just a little bit more, or with maybe some smaller group rotations within their language arts time, or gosh, are we really needing to do something differently in tier 1? So again, I would say right off the bat, if you're seeing, a big percentage of your students screening as support needed or screening as support needed on a particular task, like elision in the phonological awareness domain, that might be a sign to do some more of that with all of your students, to really be looking at your program. Versus if we have those smaller percentages, 10 or 15% of students, it's probably a smaller group need that we can address that way. So again, we'd love to talk more with you about this in our Responding to Results PD series. These are really the types of conversations that are so fruitful when we have them with individual schools or districts based on your needs. But an amazing question, and that's exactly what we're hoping screening will catalyze, is thinking about our students' needs, our programmatic needs, what we might need to change to meet those.
Mariah and Francesca, I know you spoke about it at the end of your presentation, but there's still a lot of questions around how do we get a closer look at the materials? Is it possible to pilot? Can you share that information one more time?
Sure.
Yeah, Mariah, please add if I'm missing anything.
Sure.
Once you express interest into Multitude via our website, we will reach out to you and do share information. We also gonna share information after this webinar, so you will have those. We are happy to share with you the availability of our webinar, the slides, as I say, to share with your school or district. We will share the video of the recorded guided demo that Mariah and team put together that really walk through the platform, including not just screening, but also the result page and the intervention page and so on. Once you express your interest in Multitude, you can also sign up for the rest of the training, access the platform, and you will have a lot of asynchronous training, as Mariah showed earlier, available in the platform for you, and things you can do at your own time, in addition to the webinars and the initial training that we provide to all. Is this answering to the question? Yeah, okay. I think there was another piece of the question that I missed, but if yes, Michelle, please let me know.
No, that was great. Thank you.
All right. There were a couple technical questions. One, you mentioned iPads. Can you use this with Chromebooks? Or only iPad? Like what is?
Yes.
Okay.
You can. It works with any device. Don't try it on a phone. That's just crazy. But no, any tablet or Chromebook or laptop will work.
We do recommend to use, if possible, two devices of the same kind, and to be with the latest application available. So we do advise for that. Our manual contain technical tip sheet that you can look at to make sure that you have all the technical pieces in place. But as Mariah said, yes, you can use any device. We did tests in school with any device. The teacher this year, they did use it in school with multiple devices.
And there were questions around cost. So there's some private institutions and schools maybe online. Is it free to private schools or just public schools? And then will the resources and use of the screener remain free in the future?
That's an excellent question. We are meant to provide the Multitude platform and screener free for the public school. There will be a very low cost, but a cost for private school that we're happy to provide if you connect with us. The platform was meant to be free for public school in California. Yes, in perpetuation. So yes. There is just the additional personalized and more targeted training that we're offering at cost that goes beyond basically what we're offering the basic platform. But that's the goal.
We could keep going all day with the questions. There are a lot. A few different questions have come up around the student interface, like the high contrast screen. Is it possible to adjust the like lighting on the screen for students who would need that? And also, like, is there drag and drop? Like, what do the kids have to be able to do to work with the program?
Sure, I can talk a little bit more about that. So I'll start with the last part, what kids do. So students are listening, at times to auditory stimuli. They're often looking or reading, sometimes expressively giving answers. At times they're tapping. There is one task or spelling task in second grade where they're dragging and dropping letters. But for the most part, either tapping or responding verbally. So it has, I think, yeah, we've gotten some feedback around the drag and drop that we're considering, but for the most part, the platform has been really easy to use and engaging for students. Francesca, maybe you could speak to the adjustments and of the technical specifications.
Yeah, I mean, that's an excellent question. As a former vision scientist, I think I can answer that. There is all our tasks, there is no problem on dimming the luminance a little, or the opposite. What we do not recommend is for students to be allowed to kind of like enlarge the image and so on, that because we'll just create problem on loading the next image into the platform, right? So if you started to do this, then it's going to create some issues. But most of like the luminance can be adjusted. There are specific tasks that are not part of the universal screener, like Visual Special, that we do not recommend to adjust luminance for, because they're really related with visual processing. But everything else, if the image is dim a little bit, is not going to make any change on the performance or the student. Of course, unless it's like you cannot see, and it is a problem. The same for volume, of course. I mean, there are students that do need lower or higher volume, as long as the student can perceive and process the input is fine. We will need to leave that to the judgment of the teacher to make sure that that specific student, that's what they need, and they're still able to perform the screener with that adjustment.
Well, we're going to end our Q&A there. We are just so grateful for your time today, Mariah and Francesca. Thank you so much for sharing your amazing tool with us. For all of you on the call, thank you so much for joining us today and for your excellent questions. We will follow up via email with the recording, with their slides, and with their Q&A document, just so you have access to all of that information. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Michelle and Julie, for organizing this.
Thank you so much. Appreciate everybody for being here.
Thank you.